Hey, if you have pain in your lower back, then there's two main postural reasons that this is happening. The good news is, in this video, I'm gonna show you exactly what these two reasons are and how to fix both of them. There are two common causes of lower back pain. Number one is what's called kyphosis, okay? Kyphosis is where we have a rounded upper back and our lower back is tilted like this, okay? We walk around like this, and when we have a rounded upper back like this, our body's pulling us forward, it's putting more pressure on the nerves, on the muscles, and our lower back, and we can end up with lower back pain, okay? And we also can end up with upper back pain, we can end up with a hunchback over time, right? It's not what we wanna do. So that's kyphosis. Lordosis, also known as an anterior pelvic tilt, is this. It's where you have a little bit of a sway back. So your butt's sticking out a little bit more. And you're walking around like this. And again, when your pelvis is like this, you're putting a lot more pressure and bend on your lower spine, which can pinch on the nerves, can cause fatigue to the muscles, and can end up with SI joint pain, things like that. So why is this happening to us, okay? There's two things that are commonly happening here. When I have kyphosis, it can often be caused by tight hamstrings. So if my hamstrings, these are the muscles on the back sides of my legs here, if those are tight, they're gonna pull my pelvis like this, and if my pelvis, see, watch my upper body. If I just tilt my pelvis, my upper body comes forward with it, my head comes out forward like this often, and we end up in this posture, okay? So how do we get the pelvis in the right position? Well, we bring the pelvis into the right position by stretching the hamstrings, and then it allows our posture to restore itself. And conversely, if I have lordosis and my butt's sticking out like this, and I'm shorter, and I've still got this pinch here, what do? Well, it's these muscles here. The hip flexors on the front of the body, they're tight. And so we gotta stretch the hip flexors, and then what happens? Whoop, our body goes back into alignment again. Okay, so likely if you have lower back pain, you're struggling from one of those two things, either this kyphotic posture or this lordotic posture, all right? So first, I wanna touch on the kyphotic posture. And I'm gonna talk about how to stretch your hamstrings to make them feel significantly better. So if you have kyphotic posture, the number one thing I recommend is for people to stretch their hamstrings every single day. I'm gonna show you my favorite drill. I've showed this drill like 1,000 times, but it's absolutely fantastic for hamstrings. So this is a good one you can anchor to getting into bed and waking up from bed, okay? So when you get into bed at night, I want you to put a towel next to your bed or a yoga strap, a belt, whatever you need, right? And you're gonna take this towel, and you're gonna put it over the ball of your foot. That's important, not the arch of your foot, the ball of your foot, kind of by the toes, okay? Then you're gonna just drop the other leg, and you're gonna pull your toes to your nose until you feel a stretch going from your calf all the way into your hamstring, and you're gonna let your whole back stay nice and flat. Now this is important because oftentimes when people stretch their hamstrings, they do this. They go and they round their back. You think that this is gonna help your kyphotic posture? I don't think so. Right? This is gonna make it worse, okay? So we're gonna keep the back neutral and flat as we stretch the hamstring. Just like before, we're gonna take a big breath in, and then we exhale. Try to create more range of motion. And we can hold this for 30 to 90 seconds on the left side, switch, 30 to 90 seconds on the right side. And ideally, you do this every single day before you get out of bed and every single day before you go to sleep. Now, what's magical about this is if you do this in bed before getting out and before going to bed, you're probably gonna fall asleep easier because your body feels a lot better when you have loose muscles, especially when these are the tight muscles of your lower body. And then when you get out of bed, you're gonna be like, wow, I got out of bed and I was moving around a lot better. My body feels so much better just by doing a simple stretch first thing in the morning, okay? So I highly recommend doing a hamstring stretch if you have this type of kyphotic posture where your hamstrings are pulling your pelvis into a posterior pelvic tilt, putting pressure on your lower back. If you have the opposite issue, where you have the lordotic posture, or the anterior pelvic tilt where your pelvis is tilted forward like this, well then, we're gonna focus on stretching the hip flexors, okay? These are the muscles that go inside the hip, all the way across the hip and into the core, all right? So for this move, you can start in a kneeling position, again, making sure that something soft is underneath your knee, and then you're gonna bring your hips forward like this, and you're gonna start to work your pelvis towards your front heel. Now this is really important. A lot of people when they do this is this. They're going to arch their lower back. So as they come forward, they're gonna stick their butt out like this. Here, let me move my elbows so you can see. So my back's flat here. If I come forward, see how I arch my lower back like this? That's not me stretching my hip flexor. That's me moving through my lower back. So we start out like this. We tilt the pelvis and we squeeze the glute. Now that stays in the same position as we come forward and we feel that stretch through the hip flexor. And then from there, we squeeze the glutes more, drop towards that front heel. We try to really feel that hip flexor stretch right here. Hold this for 30 to 90 seconds on the right, 30 to 90 seconds on the left, it's gonna be a fantastic way for you to stretch your hip flexors. You can also do this one in bed, before going to bed, and before getting out of bed, and you'll have a nice soft cushion under your knees for support as well. Now, one more thing on this hip flexor stretch, some people just can't kneel. It's just not gonna happen. And so another way to do this hip flexor stretch is in a standing position, and you can use a chair or a wall for support as well. But just coming into a lunge position like this, again, making sure your hips are straight forward, making sure you squeeze your glutes and tuck your pelvis, and then dropping your hips towards that front heel, thinking about length through here, length, length, length. You'll feel that hip flexor stretch right here. Now, what I like about the standing hip flexor stretch is I can go to the bank and stretch my hip flexors while I'm waiting in line. I can go to the grocery store and stretch my hip flexors while I'm waiting in line. So if you have tight hip flexors, try to get this into your routine where you're just kind of stretching your hip flexors for even just 10 seconds while you're out and about in your day. The more you take care of your body, the more your body will take care of you, okay? Now, this next thing for the lower back I want to talk about is your core, all right? Your core is really important for the lower back, and this move is called the elevator. Now, a lot of people get confused about the elevator because it feels like it's not really doing much, but here's the deal. If you take your fingers like this and you put them between your belly button and your hip right here, and you push into your belly button like this, you're pushing on this fleshy tissue. What we want to focus on is this. Can I push my fingers out, take a big breath in, push my fingers out? That's me creating intra-abdominal pressure and properly firing the core. So if you've heard this thing where people say, suck your belly button in towards your spine to strengthen your core. Yes, that does activate some deep core muscles like the transverse abdominis, but it doesn't help create rigidity of the spine from the pelvis all the way up to the upper spine, which is what we really want a proper core activation to do. If we activate rigidity of the spine from the pelvis all the way up to the upper spine, well then guess what? The likelihood of injuring our lower back goes down, our strength goes up, our ability to do basically everything in our daily life becomes easier and easier because we learned how to activate our core properly. So for the elevator, again, you can practice this every day. Fingers between the belly button and the hip, right? Push them in, push them out. And usually at first what will happen is people will say, I have to inhale, and the moment I exhale, the fingers go in. That's fine. This is a neurological exercise teaching you how to activate these deep core muscles that you don't have access to. It takes time to learn how to do this and how to do it skillfully. Now, after a while, you can take a big breath in and then take little shallow breaths in and out while maintaining your fingers pushed out, okay? And that's great. That's a good step in the right direction. Then eventually, you can exhale and the fingers stay out. You can walk around and the fingers stay out. And that's what we want to work towards, is being able to hold that stability in the core with this move called the elevator for a full 60 seconds, regardless of what we're doing. So if you have a workout routine, put this in your workout routine before you do any of the movements, and it'll be a consistent reminder to utilize proper core strength before you do any sort of workout, right? You can also practice this anywhere you want. If you ever feel like you have lower back pain or anything like that's flaring up, start working on the elevator. The more you get access to this proper way of activating your core, the less likelihood you will have lower back pain, okay? I got one more thing for you. It's the lower back injury, the #1 way people injure their lower back, and then I'm gonna go over these 2 best moves here that I think are really fantastic for you. I'll go through these and you can pick a variation for you that you can take home with you at the end of the day. So, what is the #1 way that people injure their lower back? I'm sure you guys all have a guess, but it's simply this. It's, oh, I dropped something on the ground and I'm going to pick it up and I'm mindlessly moving and I round everything and I have poor form and I come down to pick it up and I go back up, and I pinch the nerves of my lower back, okay? So this has happened to a lot of us. It's happened to me. It's probably happened to most of the people who are watching right now. And so one of the most common things that happens is this, and so what we need to learn how to do is how to move through the hips properly. If we move through the hips properly as we hinge through the hips, we will eliminate the #1 reason that most people end up injuring their lower back in the first place, okay? So this might look like this. Instead of reaching our hands forward through the spine, we want to do the same thing we did with the squat. We want to put the weight on the heels, we want to push the weight back, we want to hinge through the hips, and then we want to bend the knees, and then on the way back up, we want to do the opposite, right? Extend the knees, push through the heels, and stand back tall. This simple motion, we call this motion at WeShape the frog deadlift, right? Is just learning how to hinge through the hips properly, come up and down. Practicing this motion can be a fantastic motion for strengthening this movement, so that way when you go to pick something off the ground, you don't do it mindlessly, you do it mindfully, okay? You do it mindfully instead of mindlessly. And couple this with the elevator, so keeping that tight core as you come down, keeping that tight core as you come up, exhaling and repeating that process, that can be such a fantastic move for teaching you how to be strong in this common way that people end up injuring their lower back. So the two best moves for the lower body, I want to talk about two things that are really important for you. Number one is the ability to squat. Number two is the ability to hip hinge. You've probably heard me hit these themes over and over and over again throughout this video. So first I want to go over the squat and give you a simple progression, and all I want you to do is think about which variation feels like the right fit for you, okay? So if you're a complete beginner and you can't even stand up from a chair, then the first variation is this. All you're going to do is push your heels in the ground, squeeze your muscles on your thighs and your glutes, and then relax. That's it. Push your feet in the ground, squeeze them for a second, and then relax. It's called a seated heel push, okay? And your toes are going to come up to your nose, right? So just pushing the heels in the ground and then relaxing. So this is going to be our level 1 variation for the squat or the sit to stand. Our level 2 is going to be a supported sit to stand. So like we talked about earlier, weight on the heels, knees over toes, this time hands on the knees, and you're going to bow forward from the hips, press into the arms, and stand up slowly. Push the butt back, replace the hands on the knees, slowly come down, all right? We're gonna inhale before we stand up, hit that elevator. Exhale as we come up, inhale as we go down. Exhale as we sit down, okay? So this is our second level variation of a sit to stand called a supported sit to stand. Third level is gonna be arms out front. Same thing, inhale, weight in the heels, knees over toes, inhale on the way back down, and we're gonna do this slow and controlled at first, practicing good movement, all right? Now, the next level is gonna be doing this move, but coming up all the way on your toes. So as I come to the top, I'm gonna stand up, and I'm gonna rise onto my toes, and then I'm gonna come back down, all right? This will be our fourth level of difficulty, all right? And the final level I wanna show you is hopping at the top. So hopping at the top, coming back down, making sure that everything is aligned, you have good form, knees are over the toes, you're landing soft, right? And this one, woo! This one will work your lower body, work your lungs, and it'll be a functional movement at the same time, which is gonna make your body feel a lot stronger and a lot better throughout your daily life, okay? So there are 6 different levels of the sit to stand or the squat that you can choose from to put into a workout to strengthen your lower body and start to feel significantly better. Choose a level that feels comfortable for you, not one that feels like a stretch for you. And then progress to the next level up once you feel like you've really mastered the previous level. Now let's talk about hinging through the hips, okay? This one is going to be called the frog deadlift. And I just showed it kind of to show you how to hinge through the hips and not round your lower back. I'm gonna show you some variations right here. So, sorry, the first variation is gonna be seated. Same thing, feet nice and wide. All you're gonna do is nice tall posture. You're gonna bring your belly button towards your thighs, press your heels on the ground, and back up. That's it. All we're doing is creating range of motion through the hips, through the hamstrings, and learning how to get that elevator active as we hinge through the hips, press through the heels, and come back up. So that's our level 1, okay? Level 2, we're gonna take the chair, we're gonna put it in front of us, and we're gonna use this for support. Nice wide stance, toes turned outward. This is for support. I'm gonna push my butt back. I'm gonna come about halfway down, and then I'm gonna use my arms to extend my hips. That's it, all right? Just a level 2 using support, okay? Once we feel really comfortable with this motion, where we're using the back of the chair, we can come into a level 3 variation of this, which is going to be coming down to touch right below your knees. So you want to touch your shins. So you're going to do this. Come down, hands to shins, back up. All right? Come down, hands to shins, back up. That's level 3. Now level 4 is just adding range of motion, but without sacrificing form through your back. So if you can't go all the way down to your ankles without doing this, then it's too far. Go back, stretch your hamstrings more, practice level 3 more, work on that for a while. But eventually we want to do this. Come down to the ankles and back up. Ankles and back up. So that's our level 4. Level 5, ground, back up. Ground, back up. And for our level 6, we'll do the same thing as before, add a hop to the top. So ground, and then we'll hop. Ground, and then we'll hop. Ground, and then we'll hop, okay? So these 2 motions are going to practice how to stand up properly and how to hinge to the hips properly. And if you want to put these together into a workout, then there's a simple way to do this. All you have to do is do about 40 seconds of work, followed by 20 seconds of rest on whichever variation you chose of the squat and whichever variation you chose of the frog deadlift. You can do 1 round of the squat, rest for 20 seconds, 1 round of the frog deadlift, rest for 20 seconds. Repeat that 5 times a round. That will be a 10-minute workout, and it will work your entire lower body. And if you pay close attention to all the form cues that I've taught you throughout this. And if you add on top of that some of these movement snacks that we discussed along the way to help fix these specific issues amongst your lower body, then you will have a routine that will give you strength, flexibility, balance, and coordination that's gonna make your whole lower body feel significantly better. I really hope you enjoyed this video and that the moves I showed you will help you feel better in your body. If you want to feel even better in your body, well, then you can watch this video right here. Otherwise, if you want workouts that will make your whole body feel amazing, well, all you have to do is click the link below, take our free quiz, and we'll build you a personalized at-home workout plan that you can try out for free.